Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Creatives of Windsor Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Sherdout, and today I'm sitting down with Paul St Pierre, who's the owner of the LFX Group of companies. I guess that's a great place to start if you want to describe what that is and what it encompasses.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
Really excited to be here. We're actually going through a full rebrand right now, and just became pretty evident to us that having the word landscape effects was a little limiting with the scope of what we've done in onboarding and bringing on businesses over the last 15 plus years. And when I started 37 years ago, landscape effects was very appropriate, and we just found ourselves probably shortly into the new year that we really needed to take a closer look at that brand. So we're in the midst right now of rebranding all of our locations and encompassing the LFX Group of companies. And that does encompass, residential design build, does encompass commercial work, does encompass our property care, which is our snow and grounds maintenance, so summer, winter operations, does encompass our developments. So we have a development company where we've got land that we're developing, and one of them is Rochester Place. So 2013, I was fortunate enough to purchase Rochester Place from my dad and a group of partners that they had started Rochester Place in 1976. Okay. And under Rochester Place encompasses the resort, the Parkside Grill, the golf course. Right now we have lots that just went up for sale 2 weeks ago. And so we're building a whole community around that. I'm building a new golf course at the moment.
At the same location or a different location?
All on the same location.
Okay.
Yeah. The Drive magazine as well as part of that group. And then we have our supply center on Manning Road. And so we just had all these different brands, different trucks running around, LFX, this, that, landscape effects. So we just thought it was just time just to really clean all that up. Again, taking the handcuffs on of it being landscape effects and just broadening, our group of offerings of what we're bringing to the table.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I'm sure that's very hard to keep organized. How do you balance your life in terms of work-life balance as well as just work balance?
Yeah. Well, I'm sitting here at 3:30 with you, and I've been up already 12 and a half hours. So okay. I'm a 3 a.m. guy this morning. I mean, I'm usually at it by 4:30 a.m. In season for sure. And, bringing on all those brands and diversifying like that just hasn't happened overnight. As I mentioned, I've been doing this for 37 years. And it was just natural progression. And a lot of these ventures weren't planned. They kind of, fell on our doorstep, so to speak. And we were able to, vertically integrate them. And it really fit. And, the story's long. You and I could do the entire podcast on how they kind of start, where I started and onboarded all these different businesses. But there was really a need along the way. If we use the Drive magazine by example, having the creative team we have with the Drive, having Sabine who joined us, as our creative director, and onboarding that, having great photographers, we've got great writers. Well, I need to market. We have a marketing engine, going for all of our brands. And so that was just a really natural step. Rochester Place, what are we going to do in off season? We do a lot of snow, and property care and winter maintenance. But what am I doing on the days it's not snowing, but it's winter and we can't really work, in someone's front yard or someone's backyard? And Rochester Place became just a great, funnel for us to be able to send our teams. And the challenge was in the early on, years was, how do I keep our talented, skilled tradespeople, employed all year long? Long ago, we would lay people off. We would, finish landscaping in November and pick it back up in end of March, April.
Yeah.
And that became very difficult as we were. That was great when I was, 20 years old starting this and getting into this industry. But like I needed to take care of a family, needed to, wanted a home. All of our team wants the same. So, we really needed to diversify and be able to take that. So, buying an asset like we did with Rochester Place in 2013 allows us to take all of our teams there on those off days and times when, it can snow. As we all know in Windsor, it can snow 1 week and then we don't get snow for 2 weeks and snow again. So that on and off, situation, isn't, fruitful for our team members. And so that was kind of the story of how I onboarded and why I brought on Rochester Place when we bought Rochester Place. And we've, continually invested time, resources, and a lot of money in Rochester Place since we bought it. And, so every piece of the business has had kind of its own, addition to the group. And LFX Supply Center, was Melvin Orr Trucking, started in 1954. The Orr family is very near and dear to the St Pierres, and my dad did business with them. I did business with them, and had the opportunity to purchase Melvin Orr, which we were the biggest customer, and have all the supplies at our fingertips for all the work that we do. And that gave us another whole vertical, design, build, being able to supply, and build out our offerings. So it's been just a, again, strategic, yet kind of it just happened. I tell people all the time, just be great to people. Opportunities will come your way.
Yeah, for sure. You guys bought that in 2019?
That's right.
Yeah. I remember when you did it, and it's been going smooth. Have you made a lot of changes there? Have you kept things kind of how they were?
Yeah, we made a lot of changes. Yeah. We have actually a YouTube video online of the before and after video of, what the site looked like. And, now we've got a beautiful showroom there, and we've got beautiful offices, and that used to be where they used to fix and repair equipment and triaxles and, on the same floor that triaxles and grease and oil, and it's now a beautiful showroom. So there's a lot of changes were done. That was bought in 19, as you mentioned, in November. Then we hit COVID.
Yep. And
we did a lot of the work through COVID because we were shut down, and so we were able to we were essential in our industry, and so we were able to build off of that in COVID. But not only has that solved our supply chain, we do a lot of work with other contractors in industry and out of the industry, out of the landscape industry. That is, through Windsor Essex.
Yeah. Have you always seen yourself as an entrepreneur?
Always.
Yeah.
Always. Yeah. When I think back, 2 days before leaving for Teachers College, after my 4-year degree in human kinetics at Ancien in Sudbury, and having to sit down with my mom and dad and say, I've got a great opportunity that I'm faced with, and I had a nice project that clients wanted to build that fall, and I was going away to Teachers College. And sitting down with my parents, and just my mom was a retired school teacher, school, university, was a must in our household. And then I have a father who's was business orientated, in his own business his entire career, and so I had this push pull. And my mom was very creative. My dad was business-minded. So I always tell people I got blessed with the best of both worlds. But sitting down with mom and dad 2 days before leaving, with deposits paid, first semester already paid, housing already paid. And my mom asked me that in that conversation, she said, "What are you going to do the other 6 months a year?" I said, "Mom, I'll figure it out." Here we are now, and never looked back. I would have loved to have been able to be in the school system, and it was something that I had aspired to do, my entire through high school and university. But I got to use a lot of the great skills through university, and my every day today that's all I'm doing. I'm coaching, training, mentoring our teams every single day in every company at all levels, and that's been kind of the outlet of being able to teach. So it's been great.
Where do you spend most of your days? Are you all over the place? Are you in your office for most of it?
All over the place. Yeah. It would definitely be. Left the house just after 3 this morning. Started out at Manning Road, which is the old Melvin Orr, which is now the LFX Group. It's our supply center. So I started out there, made my way to headquarters on 42. Walk through offices there, shop, yard, meet the mechanics, and then on to what I love best is the creative side. Out to Rochester Place, working with the crews there and doing a site tour there. And, I had all that completed and finished by 7 a.m.
Oh, nice.
So I'm all over. I have an office at each location.
Okay.
And, very structured. My weeks are structured. I do spend time, on, the creative side. And I spend time in each business with each, executive team members and management. And what I work that, and I can, today the blessing is Teams, of course, and being able to work through video calls and Teams meetings, and has been a saving grace for sure in my schedule, not having to be directly in front of someone at all times.
Do you take weekends off?
Never.
Never?
Never.
What about Sundays?
Never.
Never?
No.
Do you travel?
I travel a lot.
Do you work when you're on the road?
I do.
How do you structure that? You just kind of work for those morning hours and then go relax?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, long ago, and, my wife and I always, even when Marissa and I started a relationship, there's 7 days in a week. So, maybe your Sunday's your Tuesday, maybe Thursday is your Saturday, maybe it's Thursday afternoons, your Saturday. I mean, there's 7 days in a week. How do we structure that, with flexibility and work a schedule around what's happening? Do I firstly put personal, family into a calendar? Absolutely. Do I work everything else around that? Absolutely. There's not much that I miss.
Yeah, that's great.
From a family perspective, definitely recently, I don't say no to a whole lot. Making memories and having experiences, and I don't say no to a whole lot.
Yeah.
And but that we were in Chicago for the weekend. Got back from Chicago yesterday at 1:00, and I did a full site tour of all facilities and made my notes for the week, and what observations I'm having at sites, both on construction sites and our locations. I did a full tour of the golf course. So this morning everybody woke up at 6:00 or whenever they're waking up, but everybody had, scheduled to send emails at 6 a.m. this morning with, my observations from yesterday, and that's a Sunday. But, we left on Friday afternoon. Yes, did I do a little bit of work? Well, on Saturday morning, sure. Didn't do a whole lot on yesterday morning, but, today's a busy day. It's a Monday. Mix in a few rounds of golf a week. So yeah, it's just, there's really no set. I do live by my schedule for sure.
Yeah.
But the structure and the flexibility is always there.
My wife and I is both entrepreneurs, but more just, my wife has one employee. I have none. So definitely not the same scale, but still working for ourselves, and things get busy, and we always try to set, those days a week where we're off. And a lot of the times our Sunday is on Mondays. We like to take Mondays off together and relax. It's the perfect day to take off, in my opinion. Everything's open. Nobody's out. It's good, because there's money to be made on Saturdays.
There is.
And on Sundays.
There is.
On Mondays too, but there's also Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah. Saturdays in our industry, it was always a great day to meet clients, right? People are home, nothing for me to have 7-8 meetings on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Everybody's relaxed, they're not maybe getting pulled in different directions, regarding work. They can maybe have, grandma and grandpa take care of the kids or take the kids. Yeah. So I've always been, structured that way. And, definitely slower in the winter. That's a lot of my planning is involved, and strategy, plays a role, in the winter, and have a lot of flexibility there. There's some businesses that don't need me as much, and the snow side is definitely one that I'm not nearly as involved as I am in the other businesses.
Okay. So you have all these businesses, one after another, and it just seems like every few years you grow and expand into something new, and everything works out and you get comfortable, and then you get your next one. You had to have seen some failure over the years, correct?
Absolutely. Lots.
Have you tried big things that didn't work out in that time?
I wouldn't say that I tried big things that haven't worked. Anybody that's had any type of success, it's definitely not a hockey stick, perfect little growth line. It's imagine just a ball of wool, and it's just all over the place. And then you put in personal side into that, and for sure, it's definitely not a straight line. Business wise, I would say that there hasn't been a whole lot. Sure, there's been things that we thought we'd be able to master or bring aboard under the portfolio, but I wouldn't say there's been any major failures. The learning curve for me, was in the industry, was probably taking on jobs maybe that I shouldn't have taken on. Maybe I was a little over my head on some jobs, in the early on years. That's probably where a lot of the growth really exploded. Yeah. And, being fully transparent, probably the demise or some of the challenges I've had more been on the personal side, that caused some challenges in the business. Yeah. And, that's been kind of the thrust for me, is when my personal side of my life maybe wasn't the greatest, and I had some challenges there, I would be able to grab a hold of something and grab another business or grab another vertical and expand on that, and occupy my time that way.
Yeah, no, that's great. So, all these businesses, they make sense. They go together in some way or another. Even the golf course makes more sense to go with landscaping, and obviously the supply center. Why did you go such a different route and purchase a magazine? Yeah. What was the reason for that?
Well, Dave and I were best friends, and so I followed the drive, right from the very, very beginning. And Dave and I were actually sitting in my backyard, and he wasn't struggling with the mag, but Dave would put out the mag when he had enough advertising, or the mag got to a certain page count, and it was sometimes hit or miss, and definitely no slight to Dave. I mean, he was absolutely one of my best friends, and there was an opportunity there, and it was a give back for sure to the community. My first and foremost thrust with the drive is to give back to the community, and my core is creative, and that can be my creative side to seeing businesses and seeing how they're running and seeing how they could run. I call it take a business and bounce it off the walls and bounce it off the ceiling, and I see it in a whole different light, and rebranding them and relogoing them maybe, and putting a thrust behind them. And the drive was no different. The drive is amazing for the community. And when we had that conversation in my backyard, it was just a real easy fit. And the thrust there is to have stories that really inspire. And people have gone through adversities, gotten past these adversities, and that's really something that I wanted to bring forward. Highlighting some great companies. We just did, this great, I'm finding the next Windsor's top photographer. Yeah. We're doing another one coming out. I don't know if it'll be out prior to this podcast coming out, but we're going to do something really, really cool for new businesses. Okay. And, where there'll be, an integration time that they'll have. We'll be able to brand them, build them a website. There'll be some cash involved for them to invest in their business that, they'll work through, through the drive, and we'll do it kind of like what we did with the top photographer. There'll be some voting, and in the end, I will pick the recipient of that, and it's significant. It's going to be $25,000 plus. So wow. It is something that we are really excited about. And again, that's just that creative side of me being able to come out and I know you had Brianne on the podcast and launch something that to the team, and then they come back to me and excite me of an initiative like that.
Yeah.
Right. And I just left the job site, put spray paint on the ground, and left before that and went to a meeting and met a new client. Wants to do just an incredible backyard. So that anything that's creative, and that's how it kind of all ties together. Yeah. Ultimately.
Yeah, I understand. Especially that's kind of like why I did the podcast too. It doesn't directly relate to my business in photography, but it's nice to just help support the community further, chat with people, and anything that you do like that is essentially also good for your business. But you can find a way to tie everything together, I think, when you're an entrepreneur. So
yeah, for some, like I get so many people that, what do you mean, this, how do they all connect? How do they all work? And I'm like, well, yeah, like I said, it would be an entire different podcast, just, cause I can timeline it, I can lapse it, I can, discuss what was going on in my personal life at the moment, or what was not happening or happening. And, so, that started right from very early on.
Early on, so the first thing you started with was landscaping, right?
It was.
Why landscaping? How did you get into that?
So my grandfather, so Dad's father, so my Pepe, gave me my first push. And we lived in Bell River, lived on St Pierre Street. And I started mowing, my uncle's lawn, and then my other uncle's lawn, and then my grandfather's lawn. And soon I had 19, 20 properties. Then it grew to more properties and more properties. And my grandfather had given me the opportunity. He said, I will provide the lawnmower, I'll provide the weed whacker and the weed whacker string, and I'll provide the fuel. And as long as you take care of my yard, and take care of my yard the way I want my yard taken care of. And so that was really early. Like we're talking, when I was 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old. And that's really where it started. It started in Bell River. And same thing, as that happened and my parents were going to landscape their yard, I'm like, I can do this. And I, did my parents' home, and the rest is history. I worked up the street, down the street, and it just started branching out, and then into Tecumseh, and then across Windsor, Essex.
And then it just started to snowball. And then that was it.
Yeah.
When did you implement, what year did you get the golf course again? 2013?
2013.
What are... Actually, I wrote this question out. Let me read it. What's the reality versus people's perception of owning a golf course? What's it actually like owning a golf course?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a love passion project. Owning a golf course from a financial, if I sat with my dear accountant, Carl Hooper, and I sat with him, and we just went line per line through a golf course financial statement. You probably would shy away from buying a golf course. And, when people ask me, about owning a golf course, the fortunate thing with Rochester Place, it was totally different. We had, at the time when I bought it, they had the campground. We've turned that into a resort now, and it's the amenities that came on the same property. And, so for us, it became to that. And then the creative side of me, I didn't like all these travel trailers everywhere and the colors and the white everywhere. So we ended up building our own tiny homes. Again, another creative, context to who I am. So we worked with, ADA here locally. They designed great units, and there's many of them in the resort. So we, I had a whole different vision of what my dad had done, for the years that they owned it. And came some tough decisions. And toughest one was probably giving everybody some notice and I gave everybody 2 years notice, and that I was going a different direction. And, all units on the property need to be 10 years or better. And we implemented some standards that, they didn't have. So I had some negative publicity around that and kind of the big bad developer idea, if you want to call it that. But I had a different vision.
Yeah.
Different vision. And, there wasn't many people that were there, wished me, luck and gave me a lot of praise for doing so. And, we're way beyond that now. And, the resort members are ecstatic of what we're doing. And, it continues to, we continue just, again, spending capital. I have some big plans of what we want to do at Rochester Place and really the community that we're wanting to build in Lakeshore.
Is it a private course or anybody can play?
It's not. No, it's a public course.
How does the resort work? So do these people, they own the tiny home? Do they pay? Like how does it all work?
Yeah. I mean, they own the tiny home. So
Okay.
you own your property.
Okay.
So the actual unit, or the cottage, you own that. You don't own the actual property. The property is unleased property. It's year-to-year leases. And, anyone that's buying, our tiny homes and things like that, there's a term, that we adhere to that, there'll be no changes, to the infrastructure and what we're doing there. And, so it's a yearly lease. We're open May 1 to October 31st.
Okay.
So hard day. Doesn't matter if May 1's a Tuesday or October 31st is a Thursday. We're open, May 1 to October 31st. And, gives us lots of time to do all the projects that we have planned for the next year.
Yeah. And so those people, do a lot of those people live full time throughout the summer?
Well, yeah, there is. Believe
Yeah.
it or not, yeah. There's a host of, I wouldn't know the percentage, but there's a lot of people. That's their summer home.
That's great.
Some of them, are in Arizona or Florida, in the winter. And,
nice.
that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to lengthen that 6-month, window, to allow them to come in a little bit earlier, stay a little bit later to really work out the shoulder seasons of being able to winter, somewhere south.
Yeah. No, that's great. That sounds like a fun retirement for a lot of people. What is the best business advice you've ever received? Or if you can't think of it off the top of your head, what's the best business advice you could give somebody that was starting out?
Yeah, I would say probably the starting out. There's not one business that I've done today. I would say I've done thousands of business plans in my mind, and not on paper. As a creative and a fellow creative, you get that. We can really, let our minds wander. And, anytime I get people that ask me, I just don't overthink things and don't overplan things and don't overanalyze things. If you believe in it and if you're strong-willed about it and you have the resources to be able to chase it, put your head down. Even when I'm, coaching, mentoring, and, my son or my stepdaughter, and I tell them all the time, you don't need to get it all worked out. Take it in bite-sized chunks. Take it in the first 3 months. Take it in the next 6 months. That's been kind of my mindset, though, being seasonal, meaning, our summer operations and our winter operations. It's always been, work on the 6-8 months summer, work on our 5-month winter. And I've always been able to say I'm going to work in the winter to prep for summer, and I'm going to work in the summer to prep for winter. So I've always had that cycle, right? And I don't get too caught up on next season yet. I'll work on that come October. Yeah. Once winter's rolling, contracts are out, so winter's set up, I'll start working in October. We'll do all of our planning to launch for the new year for our next season. And I don't get too caught up in, yes, the financial side needs to be analyzed. And I bought businesses, and I bought more businesses not worrying about the financials than I have even worrying about financials. And because I'm not really concerned of, what the business is doing today. Yeah, that's one piece. But it's the view and the purview of what it could be.
Yeah.
And that's where I spend probably a lot more of my time. But then we set course, set path, put your head down, done.
Yeah.
I'm I'm a list person, so I have a winter list. So all these other ideas that kind of could distract go on the winter list.
Okay.
And I'll work on that winter list in October.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, alter and steer my team unless there's something really, really happening that needs to be addressed. This path is set, course is set, and, we go about that in those bite-sized chunks. But to have a long-term plan, a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, something that I till recent, now that I'm trying to kind of exit and watch, from afar, but yet I'm still in it every day.
Yeah.
But just really, motivate the team to take on more. And, I've realized a lot of, the dreams and what I wanted to achieve in this business and in businesses. And, for the longest time, I was always like, thinking if something ever happened to me, I have a board set up that they would step in and, they would work closely with our executive team and our managers. And I always wanted to give them runway when I'm not here. And as of recent, probably even in the last years, kind of I flipped all that and said, why am I going to wait? I'm going to step back. I want to watch it in full color. I want to watch it now. I want to watch them succeed. And that's kind of the path and the journey I'm on right now happening at the moment.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So you're just starting to hand things off a little bit, and then that's a lot better than when you're not there, because you can make sure it works out well.
Yeah. Well, and I'm always here. I'm here with I can run around with a net and catch if needed. Yeah. I'm here to, for all the questions that they might have. Not that, depending when that would all happen, the kid's going to be in the business, not in the business. They're going to enjoy the business, not enjoy the business. Yeah. So there's just, and at the size we're at, there's a lot of moving parts. So I would say, replacing, it with a person is going to be difficult. So, we have all our verticals, and we have great, managers and great team members in each respective vertical. Some of them cross over between them. Now it's just developing. I work full-time developing our team and making them great.
At a business of your size, do you deal with the politicians a lot, whether that be the local towns, city councilors, MPs, MPPs? Do you have to work with these people a lot for different things, or not so much?
I don't so much, no. Yeah. I mean, in town of Lakeshore, for sure, all the businesses we own, all the actual properties we own, and our physical addresses of business are all in the town of Lakeshore.
Every single one?
Every single one.
Even the supply center?
The supply center on Manning Road is the same as Rochester Place, and 42 headquarters in Puce, and any of the properties that we have that are scheduled for future development are all in town of Lakeshore. So I haven't had to work too much close to the town of Lakeshore team members, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But at a high level, no, I don't. I haven't had to be too political.
That's good. See, you've said it a few times. You keep saying you're off season, on season, off season, on season. And my brain's always like that too, especially in my business. We're so busy in the summer, slow in the winter. And you're always trying to, but I've grown to like it, and you can plan for things. In the winter, I'm going to do this, and in the summer, I'll do this. Like you said, do you think you would enjoy living somewhere and running a business in, say we had weather like Arizona? You would never have that off season. Do you think you would like that or dislike that?
Put me back 10 years, for sure. We would have something in the South, and we'd have, one of the divisions working in the South, take the landscape side of it. Yeah. It would be great to have something in Florida and operating in Florida and doing, the projects that we do here, and of that level in Florida would have been amazing. And not to say that we won't, depending, again, where the team wants to take it. Kind of the world is their oasis right now. It depends how I kind of strategize with them is, where we're at doing the things that I enjoy, the things that I love. And, they can take it from here. So if there's a team member that wants to own something, meaning own the project, own that piece or that vertical, and they're ready to take it on wholly, not just the glory side of the piece that they want to bring forward, I would consider anything that came my way from our team. And if my son Daniel, if Daniel wanted to open something up in Florida, we'd be operational and working in Florida probably within 6 months.
Yeah.
If that's something he wanted to do. And I didn't have that thought. For sure today the world's gotten a lot smaller, technology, there's lots of operational ways that we could achieve something like that. And it's something that really didn't cross my mind outside of what we were doing in Windsor, Essex for the longest time.
How far out do you guys take jobs? Do you do a lot of work in the Chatham-Kent area?
Pretty proud to say that something that a lot of people in Windsor, Essex don't know is we owned a property management company. It was called LFX Property Management, and we built that across Canada. Oh. So we ended up having offices in Kelowna, headquarters here, and we had an office in Brampton, and we were moving east. And 2.5 years ago, we merged with Case FMS, Facilities Management Solutions, and we merged with them. So we're now North American. So we're now Canada and US. And so they carried our brand for the last 2.5-3 years since the merger. And they're just now going to, bring the Case, banner over top of all of Canada and all the US. So it's actually Case, and it has, the US flag and the Canadian flag. And so pretty proud of what we built. Simultaneously with everything else we had going on here in multiple offices and across Canada, really, really proud of what we built. And I'm still very involved in that business, and at a different capacity, of course. We still have a lot of great team members that were part of that business that are still, part of Case now. Yeah. And that's more of a branding element as well. And just really, really proud. So, what happened there is simultaneously, I grew the business across Canada, and one of my best friends his name is Jason Case, grew his business through the U.S. And we had a handshake deal. That's all it was. Yeah. Handshake. You stay in Canada, I'll stay in the U.S. And I had a few little opportunities in the U.S. And so we had great discussions about it. And he 2.5 years ago, we were able to put a deal together and merge both companies. As he grew his, I grew mine, and we were just, really, really leaned on each other heavily in that growth. Yeah. And we are now across North America.
That's really cool. How do you deal? So it's, for most of your business, it's just you, right? You're the guy.
Yeah, I don't have a partner other than a few land deals. I don't have a partner in any of the businesses.
How do you feel when you do have to work with somebody, like in the Case business, for example? Do you like it, dislike it?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was fortunate with Jason. I didn't want to have an active role. He was CEO. They have an amazing CFO. So they had a lot of great team members in place. And, when we were talking early on, about merging, I didn't want, to be in the day-to-day operations, because I still had, everything Windsor, Essex County. So nothing changed Windsor, Essex, Kent County. Nothing. We basically drew a line lake to lake and said Windsor, Essex, Chatham, Kent did not change one bit with the merger. And so we kept all the businesses that we had local in our community here. And, I just decided to step back, let them, step in. And, I get a chance every 2 weeks for 1 hour in a board meeting to offer my opinions, my thoughts, the improvements, what we should be doing. But it's been such a great learning curve. for me as well to be, in a room like that with, our board are incredibly talented. And to be in a room like that, and I'm able to take so many things from those discussions and those meetings and those reports, like the reporting that gets done at that level is something that I had never seen before. And that's really helped me drive, reporting into all my other businesses here by example.
Do you like to have your team members work in different aspects, kind of as the corporation as a whole? I guess it depends on the position they're in. Or do you like them to stick with one?
I think naturally it just kind of happens that they find their comfort zone, they find their comfort spot. Sure, there's some of the team members that work across all brands, but there are some that are just very focused on one element. Like we have someone from our sales team works 365 days selling snow.
Okay.
Right? That's his primary focus is selling snow. Brienne, is 100% on the drive. Sabine, who is across all brands.
Yeah.
Accounting probably across all brands, HR across all brands. So there's some people that do work across all brands. But right up to our executive team, I keep everybody pretty focused because there's a lot of moving parts, that play, but they're all pretty focused. If they're in one or two pieces of the business, it's probably about all.
Yeah. Do you find you pulse? So maybe you lose one of your salespeople from the landscape side, and that snow guy's really good. You go grab him. We need your help over here for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, totally different skill set. Snow sales or grounds maintenance versus design build. Design build is highly creative, and there's a piece there. Sure, you can sell it, but there's a lot that goes into the construction, a lot of background, elements that come into that. And, it doesn't matter the size of the job, scale of the job. There's on-site changes, measurements maybe don't always work, or you start working and, gas lines in the way. So you have to have that creative element to be able to kind of fly on the move and make those on-site changes and on the fly, so to speak. So there has to be that creative piece. To me is very strong, and we've got an amazing creative team, that work. And then behind the scenes of all that, we've got our great support teams, and it has to at the end of the day all make sense financially and fiscally responsible to all the businesses.
The thing that you just talked about that you're going to be rolling out with the drive, where you're going to give a business $25,000. Can you talk about that yet, or is it still kind of under wraps?
No. I have not launched it yet, so I don't know. When's this podcast coming out?
I don't know. It can come out kind of whenever you want.
Yeah.
We can put it out in 3 weeks if you want, 4 weeks.
Yeah, it'll be out before then.
Okay.
And absolutely, I can talk about it. So my idea there is I love entrepreneurism, and I love young entrepreneurs, and there's no real age going to be set on this, but it's really something that would, someone that just really, has a great idea, or, has everything it's going to take and has the passion behind it. So I'm looking for someone, or we are looking for someone that, really needs that first believer. There's angel investors, and not that I am one, but you hear about angel investors, things like that. And I just believe with what we have in the offering, with the drive, with our creative team, and being able to build on the website, get logos done, do a story in the drive, spend time with Sabine, spend time, with our accounting team. So all encompassing, it's going to be basically opening up my team to them.
Like a school.
And a mini little school. And I will spend time with them. I will have them to my house, and I will guide them and coach and mentor them. I will, and there's going to be some earmarks, right? There'll be some earmarks that, if there's some initial costs, we'll start there. And, there has to be some tested and true here. Like, I wouldn't just hand it all over to someone, and, I really want to follow it through.
Yeah.
It would be something I would love to do on a yearly basis. So the little mini Dragon's Den, not near, as complex. But I'm just really hoping to hear some great stories and, back to the drive. That's what I love. I love hearing, that's the first thing I do when we get the hard copy. I'm a hard copy person. So print's not dying, by the way. So I love, every publication that comes out, and that's my Sunday afternoon, with a cigar or two, and I literally read it page by page by page, and I love hearing stories, what's happening in Windsor. I love understanding, what people are doing in Windsor, maybe living here in Windsor and reside here, but what they're doing elsewhere. I just love stories like that, and I'm hoping really to find something that someone just got an idea and they just really need a boost, and they really need someone to believe in them, as I had so many people along the way believe in me.
I think that's super inspiring, even for people that are entrepreneurs that don't specifically win the grant, just to even apply for it or look into it or follow it or watch what the winner does. All of that can be inspiring and help out people as well. I find a lot of the times even just getting involved in that and just whatever process you end up doing to pick a winner, even the people who don't end up winning still are going to get something out of it. Just like on Dragon's Den, a lot of the businesses that don't end up getting money end up being successful. Yeah. No, I'm so excited. It's been something I've been wanting to do for years now, and this would kind of be the first step. I'm just really excited about it, and I'd love it to be a yearly, opportunity that we put out there, and I'm just really, really excited. Yeah, no, that's great. I'm excited to follow it and just watch it and get inspired too. It's, every time somebody's on the podcast, it always makes me inspired. You work all day and sometimes you get a little burnt out or whatever, but then you talk to somebody else and you ask them questions and then they get fired up and it gets you fired up. And, I think that's the whole goal of everything, is just keep everybody fired up, Yeah. I got more of a fun question, I guess, on the tail end of this interview. If you got $100,000 today to do whatever you wanted with, where would you invest it? What would you do? What would you build?
I'd invest in my team.
Yeah.
Hands down.
In what way?
I'd bring resources in for them of all levels. I mean, we're digging in right now to, the Disney school. We're dealing, we're looking at the Ritz-Carlton school. Just really working towards, that awesome service level, and something that as you grow, there's been a lot of challenges in the growth. This has not been a straight line, and there's been some hiccups and lots of mistakes. But finding something like that, investing in technology for them as they might need, but just really investing in them and doing something. At their choice, not mine. And, I think that's probably the biggest thing that I'm excited about in the future is now I'm really able to, listen to what they want to accomplish and what verticals they might find interesting or they might want to pursue. Naturally, it has to be something that kind of fits, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't. Yeah. But I'm just so excited of what the next 5-10 years will bring on, and where the company's going to be in 5 to 10 years from now under their inspiration, their hard work. There's a blub word out there, exit without exiting. That's kind of really the path. I've done quite a bit of reading in regards to that, and that's kind of the path that I'm on right now, is how do I exit, but I'm still there, and it would give them that autonomy to be able to run things differently. I did it my way, and my way, wasn't always right. I made mistakes. I had a lot of challenges, but if I'm here, I've also done a lot of reading on companies that just spike and thrive when the founder steps back or the founder steps out. So somewhere in that world is what I'm trying to navigate and, give, some guidance. And I'm hoping it's the latter. I'm hoping it's something that I kind of am able to step back as founder and just take that position and, a CEO steps in and maybe they are at a different level, or they want to take it to another stratosphere. And I'm just so excited, and watching them develop, watching them grow, and seeing where they take it.
You keep talking about what all these people are going to do. When you say exit, what are you going to do with your time? Does that look like retirement for you, or a semi-retirement? You just want to play golf and smoke cigars and relax? Is that kind of where your family time?
No, I want to go back the way this started, believe it or not. I want to go back and I want to sit on excavators and dozers and maybe even build some golf courses, and not just our golf course. That'd be, again, another outlet of my creativity.
Yeah.
There's nothing more that I love than sitting on a piece of equipment.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of it now. We're so fortunate to, do the Gordie Howe Bridge project here locally, do the battery plant, and those are massive commercial projects. And so we've got some great equipment, and I kind of want to smoke cigars and sit in equipment and do that. Yes, play some golf. Yes, winter somewhere warm.
Yeah.
And do those things. But no, I mean, retirement and having a brain that's firing at all cylinders like mine, there's no stop.
Yeah.
I've seen way too many people that take that path, and the declines, sharp on the other side of that, and that's not something that I'm inspiring to do. No, I mean, it's giving back to our community. I'd love to start probably the most wicked mastermind there is for entrepreneurism, business of all sizes, all shapes, everything. So that's something that, as I've done, some speaking publicly in industry on some pretty big stages. But it's the follow through after that comes with it, right? The expectations and people reaching out to you. And that's hard when I'm already so busy.
Yeah.
And, but to get to a point where I could do that and have the time.
Yeah.
Pretty fulfilling.
For sure. Yeah, that sounds great.
But I won't do that till everything, I call it everything in our own backyards running properly.
Yeah.
So once I get everything here, and let them and give them the tools and give them the time that they need, and then I'll give back that way.
Are you working towards that already?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you say just 1 year at a time. Do you have a plan? Are you looking to do this for 5 more years, 10 more years?
Well, contrary to what I said earlier, I've never done a business plan. This January, we did our first 10-year vision plan.
Okay.
And so we had, some members of our team together, and it was an incredible 3 days. And there wasn't a lot of guardrails around it. It was dreamy. It was big thinking. It was all of that happening. And then really the big takeaway there was, how do they do all of this, and how does that team make that happen without me? And I'm just, like I've said a few times, I just cannot wait to see where they take this. And there was no limiting factors in a 10-year plan. There was no financial factors. It was kind of, if money's no object,
yep,
kind of dreamy thinking. But then it all comes back to the team, building our team, building, our organization, and having all the right kind of pieces of the puzzle together. And, we've done a good job to date. Definitely some pieces that would have to be onboarded, to achieve some of their lofty goals, but super, super excited of where they're going to take it.
What this is the final question. This is what we'll end it on. What motivates you today versus when you started this all 37 years ago?
When you get to a point in business that it's not about the money. And I'm pretty fortunate to be able to say, sitting here today, that is it a driving factor? For sure. But when it's not the be all end all, how much more creative can we be when it's not about the money. How much more can we invest if it's not just about the money? And that's been, kind of the liberating piece of, where I'm at today is that. And, so that's been probably the biggest change, through the years of having to. And I'm a big flow person, big about flow. And I've been there. I've been in times when, you needed that deposit on Wednesday to make payroll on Friday. Yeah. I've been there borrowing money on Thursday night because I don't have enough money for Friday. So when I tell you this has been a long road, long journey to get here, but when you take that out of the equation, you kind of hit this little flow state that really propels forward. And that's a great place to be. And I've been there at different times, but when the financial piece kind of becomes strong, the creativity and the abilities and, the handcuffs come off and, the ceiling, there is no ceiling. And that's been the most fun.
Yeah. Well, just hearing you explain that, the word I think of is just flow. Yeah. Just get the flow instead of being held back. Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of that is it's not just for me. It's for our team.
Yeah.
It's not just me anymore. Yeah. It's for the team.
That's great. That's a perfect spot to end it. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
It was great.
It's a pleasure, Anthony. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thanks, guys.